Hey guys, welcome back. So last night I decided I'm going to take a little break from watching YouTube and I'm just going to sit down and watch a movie. And I'm honestly not a big movie person. Like, I don't purposely go out and decide to watch movies or put a movie on TV. I'm just really not that interested in movies. I like documentaries, I like YouTube, news, that kind of stuff, educational stuff. But last night I turned on Amazon Prime and I was just kind of scrolling through and reading the little captions to see what the movies were about. And this one called Dragon Day came across the screen, and I read it. It sounded interesting. I guess I'm kind of a sucker for punishment because it was kind of a dystopian type movie, like what would happen after a cyber attack. So this is basically my opinion of the movie and my thoughts after watching the movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I don't want to ruin the movie for you, so you might want to just turn off of this video and watch it after you've watched the movie. And I do suggest watching it. So basically, the premise of it is there's this family, they go into the woods, they're in like a little cabin in a very small town in the woods, and I don't know if they're just doing a getaway or whatever it is. But while they are there, there is a attack, and they don't know it's a cyber attack right away. The guy, the main character in the movie, is in the NSA, so he figured it out real quick. But they found out slowly. First, the TV stopped working, the electricity stopped working. Shortly after that, all the cars on the road stopped. They saw planes fall out of the sky and crash. So they figured out that's what it was. And I was thinking it was an EMP, but there was no like big explosion or anything. Not your traditional, what you would expect from an EMP. But it turned out that it was a cyber attack by the Dragon Country. And if you don't know who that is, it's the Big C country. So it was it was a cyber attack. And they used all the little microchips that are in every single electronic device that we have, in everything, basically. There was some kind of embedded, I don't know if it was a virus or what it was, but they were able to have access to these microchips, and cause them all to shut down. Anything with a microchip in it shut down, didn't work. And so basically the whole movie is, what do they do from there? First thing that went very, very wrong for them is they didn't have enough food. They had like, I think they had a 50-pound bag of potatoes or something, and then a few things of canned goods, but they weren't prepared. They, weren't really up there to stay for the long term. They were planning on going to the grocery store. By the time they made it down into town, which was miles and miles away, they found that every single grocery store had been looted. Everything was gone. Everything was picked through. There was nothing there. The main thing that was kind of themed throughout the movie was water. So they didn't have enough water in the cabin. They didn't have any stored water. They really didn't plan on being there that long. They couldn't get any at the grocery store. It wasn't coming out of the pipes, obviously. So they did wind up getting the water from the back of the toilet tank and drinking that at some point. It looked disgusting, but it's supposedly clean. They did wind up draining the bottom portion of a hot water heater, and they got water from there. There was like no water in sight. Wherever they were was kind of a desert or dry area up in the mountains. There weren't like any rivers or lakes nearby, so they had nowhere to go to fetch water. And my thoughts were, they should have had a topographical map that would help them get to some source of water, get a bucket, bring it back home, whatever. They didn't have any water filtration. But it really makes you think about, if something like this were to happen, what would you do? Water is so essentially important. These people were like losing their minds because they were so dehydrated. You see Obi back there staring at me? Creep. They lost their minds because they were so dehydrated. You could tell they were just like sunken in, sallow. Their lips were all dry and crusty. And it made me really, really think even more about the importance of water, which we all know. So water and food are going to be top priorities. And, I thought about all these other things that would be top priorities, but when you actually see it play out in a movie, you realize how how important protection is. So there were a couple women, a child, and a couple men involved, and this guy, for whatever reason, he didn't have a firearm. He had no way of protecting himself. The neighbor had a shotgun, but he didn't have, the main character didn't have anything. So he's got women and children, no way to protect them. And very quickly into the movie, there are looters. There are gangs of people. I mean, very, very quickly. So the disaster happens, and later that day, all the food and water is gone, and people are already looting places, which, I mean, really makes you think. You think you have time. You think you have time before people lose their minds and start going crazy and breaking into houses and looting, but it happens very, very quick. So protection is definitely key. You know, your firearms, anything else that you can use for protection, make sure you know how to use it, and make sure you have lots and lots of ammo, because self-protection and protection of your dwelling is going to be very important. People are going to be coming for what you have very quickly into a disaster within days. If they can find you. In my neighborhood right now, easy, people could find me. They were up in the woods, and still some neighborhood people, I guess, some people from the town found them and wanted to loot them. So in the beginning of the movie, there was a female driving, and she went out to go get groceries or whatever. When she was on her way back from the grocery store, her car stopped. It just kind of rolled to a stop. That was the electronics shutting down. It was kind of like what you would expect from an EMP. She had heels on, you know, a dress on, and she had a little child with her. She quickly became a target. She's a female, all by herself, stranded on the side of the road. Sorry, there's little gnats flying around. She had nothing with her. She didn't have comfortable shoes. She didn't have any water in her car. She didn't have protection. She quickly became a target. So one thing that I was thinking of is definitely have a go bag or bug out bag in your car, get home bag, whatever you want to call it. Because if something did happen like that and your car stops working and you have to, she had to walk like 16 or 18 miles or something, wearing heels, not prepared, no water. That's almost 2 days worth of hiking, to be honest. Have a bag in your vehicle, because if you can't get back to where you're going, within a day's walk, you're gonna have to stay somewhere. You're gonna have to stay in the woods, sleep in the woods. You're gonna need flashlights, all the kind of stuff to survive through the night, a way to make a fire, a way to stay warm, shelter, that kind of thing. So keep a go bag in your car, keep comfortable shoes in your car, self-protection. And then, oh, cash. So at the very beginning of the movie, I don't know if it was because of what had happened or just it was a small town, they didn't have good internet reception, but the POS machines, the credit card machines, weren't working. So every gas station they went to said that they needed to take out cash. Guess what? They tried to take out cash. ATM machines were down. I think he had like $3 on him to buy some gas, but definitely keep some cash on you, because if everything is down and some businesses are still operating, you might be able to use your cash. Let's see. Surprisingly, something that was not a concern for them really was like heating and lighting. In the cabin, they did have lanterns. I guess that they were already there, and they had the fuel for the lanterns. They had a fireplace, so they were able to make a fire. So, and they had shelter. I mean, they were in a cabin, so they weren't really worried about not having a roof over their head. They had lighting. I don't know how long that would have lasted really, because it was just lanterns with fuel. And communication was another thing. So I'm just gonna let you watch the movie to figure this part out, but the guy he was a smart guy. He wound up concocting some kind of communication device, like a radio, with no power and all electronics down. So he had the tools, he had the know-how to make a radio, like taking parts from things, and he was able to communicate with someone from the NSA. So communication, obviously none of their cell phones were working or anything like that, so they're just stranded there. Very quickly they learned who they could trust and who they couldn't trust. I don't want to go too much into the storyline, but basically it wound up being that after Dragon Country did this attack, they were already here in the country with people that were allegiant. How do I say that? They had people in the United States that were allies that were already set up to help them. They had little camps set up. I mean, they were ready. It was like they were already implanted here. And then after they did that EMP attack, they were ready to go. They were taking things over. They were rationing things for people, trying to control people. It was actually kind of a eerily, very possible movie. I do suggest watching it, but basically those are my insights on after watching the movie, you know, things that I feel like would be very important and that they didn't have, they weren't prepared. Water, for sure, water filtration, food, protection. Those were the number one things, because they did have a roof over their head. I think at some point they had to leave their house and kind of hike it. So, you know, a tent, some way to build shelter would have been nice, but it wasn't really necessary in the main part of the movie. So yeah, just things to think about. And don't you guys think it's really weird that they're putting all these dystopian type movies on Amazon Prime and Netflix, whatever you guys use? I watch some things on Amazon Prime, but very dystopian type end of the world movies, or, you know, World War III type movies. Another one I do suggest watching, what is it called? I think it's called Aftermath 2149. I believe that was also on Amazon Prime. Very cool, dystopian, not so cool actually. It basically tells us what our future could be like if there was some kind of nuclear event and then everyone was forced to like live inside in a virtual reality world for the rest of your lives. So that's another one I suggest watching. It's kind of cool to watch them just to give you ideas on, you know, what you'll need and what you'll need to do if something like that happened. But anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video.